You're tuned in to Behind the Media. Dan Lothian and Jimmy Young bring 70 years of award-winning broadcast experience to the table. From newsrooms across the country, behind anchor desks and in the field, they've seen and covered it all. And now they are here to take you behind the media.
You're going to have to embrace technology. If you're an educator,
I'm embracing it.
I want you to use the phone to help teach these kids.
You don't need to do that. I was covering the president in China, and we did a behind-the-scenes video. This is a gong, or
no, not a gong, a bong.
A bong.
With a B.
That's right. Did I say
the
gong?
Gong is a
That's
gong
right.
show.
I said gong.
Gong
bong.
makes noise.
Bong.
Okay.
Why is it, Jimmy? Why?
Because sex sells, Dan.
True, but it's only part of the answer. It is. You have to be more creative now to be able to tell a story, and sometimes it's just a before and after picture and saying which one do you want to be.
Hello, everybody, and wake the neighbors, hide the kids. Or is it wake the kids and hide the neighbors? I don't know. Hide from the neighbors, maybe? Whatever. Stop what you're doing. Open a window. Spring is here, okay? And if you're mad at the media, this is the place to stop and give Behind the Media a listen. This is Behind the Media with Dan Lothian, but no, I am not Dan Lothian. I am
Neither
Jimmy
am I.
Young, and neither are you. We do have a very special guest in studio. We'll get to him in a moment, but he's anxious to talk so he can go to church, which I really do respect. Yes. All right, we'll get to that in a minute. Hey, on this show, we find the interesting in media, and we'll talk about it just so you don't have to search for it. Like us on Facebook, use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter, listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by RX Bar, the Whole Foods protein bar. Go to rxbar.com/CLNS and use promo code CLNS for 25% off your first purchase. We're also brought to you by Little Park Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littleparkmedia.com or contact us at info@littleparkmedia.com. Now, see this little bell?
Yeah, I was looking.
And filling in for me, so I can fill in for Dan.
I'm much more comfortable filling in for you, Jimmy. Dan's shoes are I don't even have the voice.
Nobody has a voice like Dan Lothian, and no matter how hard I try, it's just not going to happen.
No, you sound like Darth Vader.
That's right. And by the way, think about that. Comparing Dan Lothian to James Earl Jones. That's impressive because there is no better baritone in voiceover than James Earl Jones.
A great commercial with James Earl Jones recently. Where
this is CNN.
You hear all the different renditions of him doing it, and then he sits down in his recliner, and it's the real James Earl Jones. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
CNN endorsement, not fake news.
Not fake news. All right. Nick. Speaking of fake news, since you are the CEO of a major media network, I'd like to know a little bit about the history. Tell the people who are watching Behind the Media about the history of CLNS Media, and then we can actually get into, if you want to share, how we actually met and give the guy a little credit who introduced us.
Well,
since he's in the other room.
He's in the other room. We better do it. When he trapped me into meeting you, it was great. It was one of the greater days of my life.
I'm sure it was. It's something you'll never forget. That's for sure.
So CLNS started as a blog, 2008.
A blog is not an audio file. It's just text.
A blog. It's a text. It's a written diary,
text.
Basically.
Right.
A weblog. Right?
Okay, weblog.
So, what was I doing? I was covering the Celtics because they're the team that I love. Grew up a Celtics fan, and built a staff, and then all of a sudden, EEI actually at one point, they used to have me call in on overnights and do a segment, usually like once a week. Yep. And I had no idea that I had good pipes, but somebody was listening. A guy named Brandon Paul, he's actually in racing now. He covers racing. And he said, "You got a podcast." And I said, "What the hell's a podcast?" And from there, we started, in 2009. Back then you had to like plug your iPod into iTunes and download it and upload it to your iPod to listen. I had burned CDs of us so I could listen in the car, right? And once we started doing it, the local media, particularly here in Boston, started to really say, what are you doing? How are you doing that? You crazy man. And that's how the network started. We started launching podcasts for, now we have 80 podcasts, Jimmy, and you're 2 of them.
Yes, indeed. Well, one anyway that people know about. The other
one is we're teasing it.
We're teasing In the Weeds, and we'll be talking more and more about that. All right, with the bell. By the way, another one with the bell.
Yeah.
The podcast industry has exploded over the last few years because of the ease of actually recording your voice and then playing it back and then uploading it and all that. But as a industry, can you talk a little bit about the growth of it? And everybody has one, but how do you get noticed?
Yeah, well, that's the hard question, isn't it? We got noticed particularly because we started so early on. We were early adopters. The first podcast we brought in to work with us actually started in like 2004 at Celtics Stuff Live. So it was the year before podcasting was invented. So we had all that SEO goodness because iTunes does have SEO, right?
Search engine optimization.
Right, and iTunes is basically a big search engine.
Correct.
So you mentioned ease of broadcasting. Well, it has gotten easier, no question. That's cluttered the industry because anybody with a cell phone, one of these, thinks they can get on air now and broadcast. I think what's really been the explosion of the podcast industry is ease of listening, less so broadcasting. So, in other words, I mentioned how when I started Celtics Late Night Show in 2009, you had to plug your phone in to iTunes, not your phone, your iPod into iTunes, that's the name podcast, and download, upload. It was a grueling process. Jimmy, we had like 70. I remember we had like 20 listeners, and then like midway through the Celtics season, we had one pop up for 75 listeners, and it was like,
hey,
everybody's listening.
Everybody's listening.
75 listeners, that's not going to pay the bills. But back then it was big. So around 2012, the industry, the technology had to catch up to the industry. And it did. And it is. It's continuing to. And you're seeing now it's the same model, paywalls on podcasting, paywalls on journalistic stuff, and it's pay per view almost. Everything's becoming on demand. I knew the industry was really taking off at 2 different points. Number one was one morning, because my personal podcast is called Beats and Eats. We barely broadcast it anymore. But at one time, it was
award winner.
Award winner.
It was an award winner.
Yeah, it was an award-winning non-sports podcasting.
Yeah.
And it was on the front page of iTunes for like 2 months, which is, I have screenshots of it still. I still kind of salivate looking at them, right? So every day you'd get up and say, are we still on the front page of iTunes? Yes, we are. Okay, wait, who else is there? All of a sudden, NPR popped up with 7 different podcasts. About a month or 2 later, BBC had up. Okay, I said to my co-host,
this is a
good and a bad thing, right? Because the big boys are getting in,
right?
And that's when I knew it. And the second was when you do a sales call, you don't, you get 10 minutes in a sales call, you get 8 minutes of attention from the person you're trying to sell to. All 9 minutes I spent explaining what a podcast was back in the day. Now They automatically know. Ease of listening has really, really, really made that. And everybody, Jimmy, you're 90 years old and you have an iPhone.
Reverse that numeral, please. It's not a 9. It's a 6. Unless you stand on your head, right? Okay. And you might be standing on your head. I've seen that actually.
Yeah, so truth be told, my mother has an iPhone. My father does. They're on Facebook. That's why I'm not. But they're listening to podcasts.
We like Facebook because we are live on Facebook. I just want to say, right? Be nice. After all, everybody's on Facebook, even though a lot of people are trying to get off it. And we'll be talking a little bit about that in our next segment. But back to podcasts. What's the you're still pretty much a sports-based?
Yeah, CLNS, it was originally CLNS radio because back in the day, before it was not fashionable to be a podcaster, you were considered an amateur then. People looked at you like, oh, what's that? So we called it CLNS radio, right?
Right.
We changed it to media when we started to expand beyond sports. So actually the programming is very almost even. It's probably 70-30 sports and growing towards the non-sports side category.
Which is what we're here for.
That's what we're here
Okay,
for.
a bit Behind the Media with Dan Lothian and Jimmy Young every Friday, live streamed on the Little Park Media Facebook page and to the YouTube channel of CLNS Media.
And the CLNS website, the CLNS mobile app. So we got it. So
mobile being a key
key
development. The more people were mobile and had access to information and content, through mobility, through their mobility, also coincided with the growth of the podcast.
Correct. I mentioned also a second thing that I never mentioned in the industry. I also knew the industry was turning when every time we mentioned CNN, I'll use them as an example. Every time I turn on Anderson Cooper, he'd say, if you can't tune in to AC360, DVR it or catch us on demand. It's the same thing. Right? I mean, it's an audio-visual podcast, basically. So those are the two things. What was your question?
I don't know. The difference between sports and non-sports, we have that. We covered that.
It's
And before we get into, I know once we go onto the sports arena, we will never go back to media.
Yeah, you and I know, for sure.
But there is a story that happened this week in sports media that I do want to talk about, and it is the growth of something that has been talked about in the industry since the 70s. If any of you remember that or have read about the 70s in your book. A guy by the name of Bill Rasmussen was the founder of ESPN, and he was at the Institute in Broadcast Sports at BU back in 1979 that I attended. And I remember him saying, they were talking about it then, think about if every viewer of the Super Bowl paid $3 to watch the game. Multiply that by about 120 million, and they knew that ultimately this was going to happen. And now the NBA, which always seems to be ahead of the curve with all the other leagues,
digitally savvy.
Very socially conscious. And I give David Stern a lot of credit for this because he came in and really did a great job saving that league. With a little help from two guys. What are they, Magic and Larry or something?
And Michael. But here's the
thing.
No.
Magic and Larry first. Michael was the rookie, and he turned out to be okay too.
But here's the thing. You could have Larry Bird, who is a completely unmarketable character. I mean, he's a hard guy to put.
Unless you're from Indiana.
True.
Okay.
He took Bird's. He took the storylines that those two guys brought, and he knew how to market it. He knew how to globalize it. And David Stern is brilliant, though most people, NBA fans, want to say otherwise. He's a brilliant guy.
Brilliant guy, and did a great job. And now Adam Silver's carrying on and becoming the NBA is doing an amazing job of now threatening soccer worldwide as one of the most popular sports and also participation too.
Right.
Which is remarkable. Both games very inexpensive to play, by the way. One, of course, with your hands and the other with your feet.
Right.
And, of course, I love both games, just for the record.
That every time people say that about – I'm not an NFL fan, and particularly because I could go down the reasons. I'm not going to. But when people in America just think the NFL dominates the universe, the world, the solar system, everything, and then when you go outside of the United States – football is soccer, and basketball is always number two. And I think that is a tribute to the league and their digital savvy nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's get back to Bleacher Report, because Bleacher Report and TBS and the NBA all are kind of combining to embrace what they are calling a microtransaction model that will allow basketball fans to actually buy a portion of games that are in progress for a negligible price, which is about 99 cents. Now, keep in mind, there are people out there to this day who say, I know you only have to tune in for the last 2 or 3 or 4 minutes of the NBA game to see who wins. And for those who are worried about just winning, sure, that's when the game can be decided.
Those same people are spending 5 hours watching baseball to not know who wins.
Well, actually, I know one of them, and she doesn't watch baseball, okay, even for 5 minutes, okay? But the last 4 minutes of a basketball game are intriguing enough for her. So now you're going to be able to do this through the NBA League Pass and Bleacher Report. Are we going to go towards a micro transaction model for sports? And imagine baseball, and you take that 4-hour game, and you edit out all the delays. You get about 11 to 12 minutes of action. Highlights, basically. And I just wonder if people, especially those young millennials who have the attention span of a gnat, will buy into the fact, I can watch a baseball game in 11 minutes. I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think baseball has bigger problems than that. That can't cure baseball's problems. The demo is baseball's problem. Who they're marketing to, those people are dying. I mean, and they're the people that are They're the few people that are, and it's sad because it's America's pastime. It's baseball. I mean, what happened until opening day, right? Opening day was like the biggest day of the year, and I don't think half of Boston knew it was opening day yesterday.
Well, needless to say, I knew.
You knew.
Because my day was ruined after the seventh inning. I just want to say, I walked in, it was 4-0. I walked out, it was 6-4, and it ruined my day.
The subscription model, though, you talk about, I mean, Adam Silver did something very smart by making NBA League Pass a la carte this year. When I'm back in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, my family is, I need to watch it that way. So, I'm $5.99. I get a game. It's great. I get to pick I don't have to listen to anybody but Tommy and Mike, which is great.
Right.
So that's pretty brilliant. You look at the
Scal isn't too bad. We're going to give him a little credit.
Okay.
Everybody likes Scal.
Yeah, Scal thinks he still plays sometimes. I think
that's we all do.
Yeah,
by the way,
so do
I. All right, I'm not basketball.
My prime was 8th grade basketball. So there you go. But anyway, you look at The Athletic, right? So, and big news yesterday, they're launching an Athletic Boston. Congrats to my good friend Jay King, who got hired there, Mass Live's Jay King. A lot of great reporters getting hired there. But you got The Athletic, you got BSJ here in Boston. Athletic is obviously multiple markets around the country. And you say, now, so that's for written work even. And more in-depth, less ads. People are paying for it. Why? Because they want it, and they want it now. When they want it, how they want it, and they want to feel a bit of exclusivity, right? I'm a subscriber.
Right.
So.
No, look, I've been a subscriber to Sports Illustrated. I'm still holding on to it. I am reviewing the renewal process as we speak. But I just love, because I'm 90, okay?
Because you're one of those baseball
yeah. You know what? I played baseball, so I do enjoy the game, but it is a long commitment. I do like the day-to-day engagement with baseball, whether you watch the whole game or not. And again, you go back to the this microtransaction model. I think it has legs. I think it's
I don't know
playing.
that it does for baseball. How are they going to produce that?
That's my point. You watch the last 7th, 8th, or 9th. By the way, yesterday, if you saw the highlights and then you tuned into the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings, that was the game.
That was really the game, yeah.
So, again.
I mean, but, in one inning of baseball, you could completely turn around a game. So, and that
or you could also go to bed.
Well, right, but that's the same thing. You're on the opposite side of it. But what I'm saying is that could happen in inning 3, 4, 5. Right?
And by the way, there's another dinosaur in this building that's going to be here.
A legend.
Second half of this.
A legend.
Who loves the game of baseball and will be taking. I know that he will have a different take on that as we move along here on Behind the Media. But I do want to just quickly get into this. The TBS, CBS Final Four, that's where the games are going to be this weekend. Since 2015, TBS and CBS have had a joint venture, and they're going to be broadcasting the Final Four. And I still maintain it's Jim Nantz.
I believe so, yeah.
I think
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
And I know you don't want to talk politics, but I think 60 Minutes does owe the tournament quite a bit of kudos for getting all those ratings for the Stormy Daniels interview that came out. Did they pay that game to go into overtime? I mean, how
my grandfather used to say all the time, "Everything's in the bag, Jimmy. Everything's in the bag." And here's another perfect example. So 60 Minutes gets the highest ratings they've had in like 20 years. As a
you mentioned
following that for the Stormy Daniels interview this past weekend, which, by the way, I recorded and watched on demand.
I thought it was pretty soft.
We
could save that for another show.
Yeah, I mean, we can absolutely save it for another show, or we could get into it now, Nick. But I do want to get into that second quarter so I can get you out of here when you want. All right?
Wait a minute, Jimmy. Not when I want.
No, and it also is not. Right, I'm going to do that now.
When I'm called to church,
I understand
Black
that. So I'm supposed
Good
to
Friday.
wrap up the section one before you rang the bell. It was a premature.
I just
ring.
wanted to ring the bell because
I know I like it too.
Great.
Hey, if you like
Where
this
did
episode,
this bell come from? By the way,
I don't want to tell you where I got it. I did buy it. All right. It's an unreimbursed business expense. That's all I can tell you. Hey, if you like this episode, let us know. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter. If you have any questions or comments, let us know at info@littleparkmedia.com. And now. All righty.
Is Mikey going to ring the bell?
Mikey will ring the bell.
Okay,
Don't worry about Mikey.
I'm going to double
ringing the
check
bell.
on that.
This is Behind the Media, and I'm Jimmy Young.
That's him. I'm Nick Gelso, not Dan Lothian.
No, Dan is on assignment, and the funny Mike Adams. Oh, did I kind of ruined the surprise, didn't he?
Man, wait a minute.
Out in the hallway. He's out in the hallway. He's going to be joining me after Nick goes to church, which I give him a lot of credit for. Not
Sad
the fact he going to church, but Mike is going to join me in studio. Hey, like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter share, and listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by RX Bar, the Whole Foods protein bar. Go to rxbar.com/CLNS and use the promo code CLNS for 25% off your first purchase. We're also brought to you by Little Park Media, where ideas come to life. Producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. Yes, I too can sound like an announcer boy. LittleParkMedia.com or contact us at info@littleparkmedia.com. So will he or won't he be? Will Mark Zuckerberg actually go to Congress, go to Washington, D.C.?
Yes, he's going to.
And that's what I wanted. And also the U.K.
Did he agree to go to the U.K.?
I believe he did.
Because he said no
did
at
that
first.
I think he just said he was going to go. So, hey, at this point, he's going because we just told him. But here's the thing that's really concerning to me. People are dropping when they want. Now what you're seeing, the power of social media, when you want a change in traditional media or even in cable media, okay? You use social media to go after the sponsorships that are on these programs and get them to change. And once again, we saw it happen this week, not once but twice. First of all, Playboy. We remember Playboy. I can't believe it's still around, by the way. They deleted their Facebook account amid concerns about data because of the breach of data. And it also called the platform Facebook sexually repressive. Now, I suppose we could get into that. My point, I guess, is if anybody knows anything about sexual repression, it's Playboy. They've been around long enough. Okay. Now, they made that announcement on Twitter as well as Instagram and all that. Now, Facebook is simplifying its privacy controls. They are reacting to the breach through Cambridge Analytica, and they are allowing you, the user, to make changes to your own privacy accounts. And we at Behind the Media encourage that because we've been talking about that for months. This is one of the things about technology that always flips us. You know, it's like drug testing, how the chemists are always ahead of the testers. Well, the same thing is with technology. Technology happens every 30 seconds. It seems it changes, and then the hackers know how to use it, and then finally the populace starts using that technology, and then the hackers have access to that. I mean, it's now things have gotten to the point where it's like, whoa. Yeah. Now the line is going to be drawn on the privacy side of things. Now, again, it goes back to the consumer.
But is it really?
Well, no, until the next time.
Right.
Until the next time. But Facebook did say this week that they'd be removing ad targeting options that have relied on consumer data. As a CEO of a media network, what you learn about your users? Do you share that with any third party? That's me being a journalist, by the way.
Right, no, I
do you
don't.
share that?
I mean, no.
No, of course you don't. By the way, has anybody ever come to you asking you to share? Or have you ever been hacked? Honest. And you have a free site for the most part.
Yeah, honestly, I've never, I knock on wood, we've not been hacked. We've had, spam, we've had bots. People asked for, people have asked for our mailing list. They've asked for, contacts, and we just don't give them out. I mean, here's the thing. Like, that's part of your intellectual property. When you own an online outlet that doesn't have bricks and mortar, what's your asset? Well, it's your intellectual property and what you have in your information on your fans or whatnot. So, no, we don't give it out.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And how many users? I didn't even ask. How many users are you now reaching and on a monthly basis?
Yeah, monthly listeners, so downloads to podcasts is about 8 million.
That's a huge number of people.
Well, I'll ring the bell for that.
Yeah, we can ring the bell. We're in a bell heaven now.
YouTube is anywhere between 1 million and 2 million and growing really, really fast.
And you're getting subscribers on YouTube at a couple of hundred a month or something?
At least 500 a month.
Yeah,
when
nice.
You net out okay, so and that's an important thing. Go back to the original conversation. I had 20 listeners. I had 70 and had a party.
Yeah.
And now we're talking 7-8 million. Anything could happen in America with the internet if you're responsible.
Right. And again, this is what's happened with Facebook.
That's right.
You
took the cue.
They weren't irresponsible. They were just hungry to make money. And they had, of course, investors, and it's a publicly traded stock. So therein lies the rub. You're still a privately held company, and you take it, these are your people. This is your family, right? I mean,
correct.
Your listeners are your family for the most part.
Absolutely.
And you care about them.
It is true.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you a good example quick. We have a post-game show after every Celtics game. Every year I say I'm canceling it, and last year I was really canceling it. And one of our hosts saw the uproar on the internet, that Twitter that it created, he said, look, I'll take over managing it. He's managed it all year. Bobby Manning from Celtics Blog. He's done a tremendous job. And that's specifically for the fans, because in Boston radio, you can't call in and get more than 8 seconds.
Right.
We'll give you 8 minutes if you're saying good stuff. We want you to know more than us.
Right. And I actually think that is the place of the internet, is the ability to get the raw interview at the end of the game, because on the commercial side, even NBC Sports, with my friends over there, they take a portion of the post-game press conference and then they create some sound bites, but they're always doing wraparounds from the studio. It's still a studio-based post-game
We are
show.
the only entity online that has full game pressers of every single Celtics game. So, and that's the opposing locker room as well. So we have a catalog that's 10 years old with LeBron and Kobe and Shaq and it's some great stuff. But yeah, only entity online, and that came from Jimmy, me being growing up out of market and going crazy when ESPN would only show a minute of Larry Bird's press conference, right? So I wanted it all. I didn't have the internet, right? Until the very end of his career, and even then it took 50 minutes to download a 5-minute. So I said, look, so we've got to do something with and this concept, the full post-game presser, has picked up like crazy.
Yeah.
And a lot of the terrestrial outlets are not stealing it because they ask permission, but they're taking a lot
My
of that
former
content.
comrade in the other room will remember when New England Cable News started taking full post-game press conferences in the 90s and how revolutionary that was.
Right.
Raw, I
Right.
might add.
Right.
And I know Mikey has a lot of jokes about the word raw, but I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there right now.
Yeah,
all right?
yeah.
We got about 2 minutes left.
Yep.
I just want to put in a little Celtics talk because, Nick, I bleed green.
Yep.
I love the Celtics. The amazing, one of the most incredible things when I tell people this, they flip. They go, I've seen Bill Russell play live. Bill Russell play live more than I saw Larry Bird play live. Now,
What?
I'm talking about in the stands.
Yeah,
Okay?
the stands were half empty for Russell. Isn't that sad?
And I was there. I was one of the halves.
That's how you got a ticket.
I was definitely one of the halves. And anyway, I did have a ticket, and I had season tickets when I was 13, 14, and 15. They cost me $2 a game. It cost me a dime to get to the Garden.
that's crazy.
Okay, so you can imagine for $2.10, I went to 40 Celtics games a year.
In the Bill Russell era.
Well, it was actually the John Havlicek.
Hondo era.
It was the John Havlicek era. And my first interview was John Havlicek, to this day, one of the biggest. And by the way, Jeff Twist, who gave me my media credential.
One of my favorite people in the world.
Okay, wait, there's a microphone being on. Does that mean we have an issue?
No, you keep going.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. Sorry, I'm always afraid when I see somebody unrolling another microphone that, perhaps I'm flapping my guns. And
I think we have questions.
What do you need?
Questions, huh?
I was gonna, so I could
Watch
ask the
this.
YouTube questions and
Come on
actually
in,
be
man.
on the air.
Oh, no. That'd be inaudible. We could do that at halftime if you want. Okay, we can do that at halftime because we have live viewers on YouTube. Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
They got questions for you guys.
How exciting is that? All right,
We're here to answer your questions.
Now get under. There you go. This reminds me of me when I was his age. I was crawling on the floor with wires and microphones during the Bob Kraft introductory news conference when he bought the Patriots.
Wow.
So it gives you an idea of how old I am. Again, going back to the 90-year-old reference. All right. So, turn up 3. He wants Alec. So the next voice you hear will be one of my favorite
Not Dan
people in the
Lothian.
world. Even though he doesn't like to admit that, Alex Barth, a protege of mine, and also a regular on the CLNS media,
Who
and the
is
host.
not a protege of yours?
Quite a few people, actually. And by the way, who will admit it? That's the question.
The question. That is the question. Correct. You go to lunch with Jimmy. He mentored you.
All right, that's right, pretty much. Especially if you're picking up the check, because that's
Right,
one of the
that is-
first
yo,
lessons.
then for sure.
America's Guest is something you have to. All right, now you
let's
have
do
to
it.
go.
I gotta go to
but
church.
before you go,
Yep.
we have one question, and then we'll bring Mike Adams in for halftime as I read the RX Bar commercial. Is that okay? That's the plan, everybody.
Sure. I'll
All
answer
right.
the questions quick. I know
Okay,
Mikey's on it.
quick.
Do you want just one, or do you want me to hit you?
Hit him
with
quick, rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
What if Isaiah Thomas comes back to Boston?
Not gonna happen.
Not going to happen. All right. Do you think the Celtics' chances? I guess left out a word. What do you think the Celtics' chances are to go to the finals if Kyrie and Smart return at 100%?
The question there isn't will they get to the finals? It's will they be 100%? And that's unlikely.
Yeah, it's unlikely right now.
But who cares?
What I want to know is,
cares?
should they even bring him back? That's the question.
It's already a win. Quick, it's already a win. 52, 53 game, 52
right,
games, right? That's a win. No one thought that when Hayward went down. I was there opening night.
Right.
Everybody thought barely a 500 team. It's a win. Don't worry about the finals. That's next year.
I think my tweet was, there goes the season. Go ahead.
We all did. Yeah.
Greg just wants to thank you for all of the content.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Thanks,
Greg.
But I thought I'd get that in there.
Keep tuning in.
Any chance we, the Celtics, trade for a top 3 pick this year from Chi?
No. Sorry, I could have said that. And by the way, everybody, Isaiah Thomas, do not ever say never when Danny Ainge is your general manager.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a good move for Isaiah, at least on a 1-year deal, because he
has
come
to
in
prove himself.
He could, and he's comfortable here. But his ego is just too big. You don't bring in the old boss when the new boss is doing as well as he is. And I like Isaiah. I wish him the best, but it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, and I like Terry Rozier.
I love him coming off the bench, but he won't come off the bench.
Right, that's right. So there you go.
We got one more.
One more, then we got to wrap it up and get
right
Mikey in here.
Wheelhouse, Nick, from Sear Velazquez. Why aren't the Celtics getting the credit they deserve?
Well, wait. Of course they are. Why aren't they?
Yeah,
what do they credit?
This is a constant with Celtics fans, and though
what credit? What are they haven't won a championship yet. There's no.
Well, here's the credit. I mean, Hayward go down opening night. They win 16 straight after losing their first 2. Now you have Smart and Irving out of the equation. So where's the credit belong with Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens? So I can't really say that they're not getting the credit until the front office award and the coach of the year award go out.
Well, let me throw in one of my own then to follow up on that. You had a piece on your website yesterday from Mike Petralia. You can all check it out at clnsmedia.com.
Yeah.
Basically equating Brad Stevens to Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick has 5 rings. Brad Stevens has barely won 5 playoff games.
Big words coming from Trags. But if you really read through it, it's more like you don't have to feel inadequate anymore, Brad, because maybe you haven't won a title yet, but you're on the way to Banner 18. And with the team, the way it's currently structured and into the future, he has every possibility of winning 5+ championships. I mean, he really does. It sounds a little crazy.
No.
So, but Brad Stevens, for what he's done, 1 year out of the playoffs since Doc left and they blew up the team, I'm not putting him on the same level with Bill Belichick, but they could sit by each other.
Okay, so what I think he's really trying to say, that guy, they're both teachers. They both teach their players the game. That's what Belichick does. He finds guys that want to play football and love football as much as he does, and he teaches them the skills, the proper way to block, to tackle, to play linebacker, to play defensive back, whatever it is.
He also surrounds himself with good people.
And that's a leader.
That's right.
That's a leader.
Where are we putting Bruce Cassidy, the Ice Dance Kid? Y'all saw the Bruins last night.
Yeah.
He's doing,
same roster.
Bruce Cassidy's reputation is all in Tuukka Rask's hands.
Once the Bruins comes on, I go out.
I know. That's it. Ring the bell. Ring the bell. Ring the bell. All right, Nick Gelso, thanks so much for coming in.
Happy Passover.
And is it a happy Good Friday? No, but it's a happy Easter. All right, I got you covered.
Thank you all.
All right, I'm going to read the halftime because we've totally lost control of this show. This show is brought to you by Little Park Media. For all your video podcast needs, find out more at info@littleparkmedia.com. And don't forget, it's also powered by RX Bar, the Whole Foods protein bar. Try this, try that. It's healthy, but it just doesn't taste good. Not the case here. Looking for a great protein bar? RX Bar's taste is really good. It comes in 11 delicious flavors. Its core ingredients do all the talking. It's simply eating 3 egg whites, 2 dates, and 6 almonds. Good and yummy. I am so glad I didn't write that, but you know what? I love it. RX bars are gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, no added sugar, no artificial colors. The RX bars are great, whether it's breakfast on the go, you want a snack at the office, or maybe as you travel on an airplane. But you can even put it in your backpack and grab it on a little bike ride or a hike, or even after working out. It's egg white protein, and it stands out as a source of protein that is easy for your body to absorb. That's right. So go to rxbar.com/CLNS Media and use the promo code CLNS for 25% off your first purchase. Hey, Mike, ring the bell. Where's the bell?
Where'd you get this from? Some old cow?
That's right. I stole it right off the cow's neck.
Was it like a date?
All right, so now that we've got the bell, let's get to it. This is Behind the Media. I'm Jimmy Young, and Nick Gelso is not sitting in anymore. It is the one and only, the legend, the myth, an old friend, Mike Adams.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you so much for finding us here.
Yeah, there's some construction going on.
I noticed that.
You
I
know.
keep telling Dan I'm willing to walk up and down the road with a sign on me.
Yeah.
Hey, listen to Behind the Media on Fridays on Little Park Media or on CLNS Media.
I said they must have known I was coming. They're building a handicapped ramp.
By the way, Mike Adams, still one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life in broadcasting. He has a great soul and is soulful, and you are probably the most, well, there's another guy in the market who gets a lot of credit, Dan Roach, for being a baseball lover.
Yeah.
Well, he couldn't eat a rawhide from you, man.
See, Dad, because baseball is my life, as you know.
Yeah, well,
I
you have a great family.
Well, oh yeah, that's right. But anyway, never mind that. Baseball yesterday ruined me. You know, I was like,
oh, I'm with you. I could not. I sat at a bar at the end of my workday.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, it's 4-0.
As opposed to the beginning of your workday, like you used to do.
No, I was working up until that point, I swear. I said, you know what? It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to go downstairs and, take care. I was with Nick in East Boston. And I said, I'm just going to watch the end of the game. I was watching it on my live stream.
Bad decision.
Live stream. Chris Sale looked great on my live stream. As soon as I moved and went to the bar, I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Well, you know what it is? They brought in Dunso-Matic, Joe Kelly, who has never been worth, in my mind. Can you swear on these podcasts?
Yeah, we'd have to put a little. We like not to because we are live on YouTube and live on Facebook.
Oh, well, in that case.
So be creative. Try
looked
another
like
word.
Crap.
Okay, there you
Joe
go.
Kelly
Poo-poo.
comes in. He gives up the 3 walks. Has this guy ever going to live up to his potential? One time he said he was going to win a Cy Young Award. Remember before the season started?
Yeah, well, that was when he was dressing up to be a sportscaster. Didn't he do that for the day?
I think he's
didn't work.
Taking magic mushrooms for breakfast or something.
And yet he can still throw the ball as hard as anybody in the game.
Yeah, so could Ryan Duran. You got to be able to throw it over the plate, though, you Nimrod. There you go.
I'm going to write down all the references that Mike makes to baseball, and I have absolutely no clue on who he's talking about.
I tweeted out a picture of Emmett Kelly next to Joe Kelly last night. I said, 2 clowns named Kelly.
I knew Emmett Kelly. And of course, I know Jim.
Yeah.
Kelly. All right, Mike Adams, hey, everybody wants to know, where are you and what are you doing?
I think I'm in Wellesley.
Yeah, boy. Good job.
I'm not sure of that. I'm not anywhere. I've had a litany of jobs in this industry.
It's what makes you a legend, though.
Yeah. At EEI, I was out of there in 2016. I worked in New Hampshire for a year. It was only a year. And that was far away. It was 90 miles all the way up the highway to Concord.
It's kind of like your commute used to be from New England Cable News back to Hartford.
Same thing. It's like, do you see these lines in my face?
Yes, I know those lines.
Those are smile lines, but it's just from driving. They're little maps, little GPS maps. Because I've done more driving than anybody. You know? I'm really only 26 years old, but look at me. I'm a mess.
You definitely have the energy, the sense of humor of a 20-year-old, the whole 9 yards. Yep. Anything else as a 20-year-old? Don't say.
Yeah, I got the little black book. The problem is,
I remember that.
Problem is, it's 40 years old now. The book, it's
a lot of dust, and all those 20-year-olds are 60 now, Mike.
Exactly.
I just want to say,
so they're still attainable.
They're age appropriate.
Yep,
they're absolutely. So this is the world of podcasting. I know you've been listening in the other room.
Yeah, this is a nice room,
and it sounds great. We're live streaming. 3 cameras, Mike. What's the difference really between what we're doing here now and what we experienced as the new station back in 1992 with New England Cable News?
Well, I can't speak for you, but only the pay scale is vastly different.
Well, no, actually, it's not. Wait. There was a pay scale at New England Cable News.
Yeah, well, it was a startup. I mean, that was a
was.
brand new network. You don't get the opportunity very often to be involved in a brand new network's emergence, And,
right.
We had all kinds of, big shot people, high-minded thinkers that put this thing together. The news you need is on right now. And that applied completely to NECN until the infomercials started at 12 midnight. And then it was the news you need is on in 6 hours. But it was really, really a fun place to work. There were a lot of great people. As you know, Heather Kahn.
That's right.
I mean,
go ahead. Go through the roster because
Bill Pito
and Bill Pito, who we're still both in touch with. Bill Pito. By the way, one of the nicest, greatest guys ever met, ever worked for.
How funny is he off the air compared to on the air?
Oh, completely different.
On the air, he was robotic. Off the air, he was hysterical.
Right. Absolutely. We love Bill Pito. I'm going to give you another one. In fact, it's sad, Mike. We just said goodbye to Mike Nikitas, who was the original anchor.
Yeah, he didn't die, though.
No, we did not say. Right. He did not die.
Right.
But on that same night, Roy Hobbs did
die.
which is bizarre.
Yeah. He always had to upstage everybody. No, God bless him. Honest to God. He and I were good friends. I used to go to his house all the time. He lived over here in Natick, right?
Yep.
And we'd go over there after work and hang out. He was a wonderful guy.
He was a really nice man.
And he was a beautiful person, but he was goofy and bombastic. I called him Foghorn Leghorn because he always said, well, no matter what you'd mention, you could mention something really odd. Geez, I got to get a new dipstick for my 47 Rambler. He'd say, those 47 Ramblers had the extra long dipsticks. He always had more knowledge than you'd expect about a variety of subjects.
Which you do, too.
Yeah, but mine's less useful. Much less.
Depends on what you're looking.
Yeah.
It's
sad to see that Roy Hobbs went.
Yes.
And, good old. We used to call him Ted Blackster, and he loved that. He loved that.
Of course he did.
Would laugh at that every time. So,
but we had some other great people too. Let's talk about Howard Green for a moment, who I've just recently.
Who has no hair anymore.
I understand that. That's so sad. I am, by the way, great for you to point that out. Anyway,
he knows it.
I know that, and I talked to him right before the Super Bowl. Hadn't talked to him for a while. Good guy, great guy. Now in Minnesota, working for an anti-snore company.
Good,
which we all need.
He should have had that when his show was on the air.
Sorry.
He needed that.
Do you remember one? I don't know if you remember this. Al Iafredi, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
He came on. He was injured. And he came on. Howard was filling in for you one night,
and I was going to fight, right?
What? Me? He almost wanted to fight me.
Why you?
Because I gave him a hard. He was like, talking about it's really difficult for me to be on the sidelines, and I miss my teammates and all this. And I go, but Al, you're getting paid to do this,
right?
And he looked at me like, you want to die right now?
Smack you.
you little punk, you know.
We had a lot of smackdowns. We had remember when The Rock came in? He wasn't even The Rock
and
yet.
I had Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Yeah.
I mean, the two of us. There was some great. Right, we had some great. Killer Kowalski came on.
He came in multiple times. Yep. And then we had the guy who.
By the way, this has completely gone off the tracks of Behind the Media because now it's beyond the media.
Tony Atlas with the big guns.
Yes, sir.
And then we had that. What was that guy dressed in the pink feathers came in? He was a gay wrestler.
Oh, not the Oh God, I know who you're talking about. I can see him, like the Beautiful Man or something. That was not Tony Black. Oh.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what? If Alex was still here and running the YouTube board, we'd know because somebody would come up with that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because the only one that's famous now out of the two of them is the Rock.
That's right.
And by the way, he was Rocky Malavia back then. He wasn't the Rock.
Oh, interesting.
He had hair. He wasn't And did you ever know the drummer for Boston, Sib Haitian?
I know the name. Yeah.
He was the drummer for the band Boston.
Yeah.
His daughter and The Rock had a baby. So Sib, who just passed away last October.
Not the daughter.
No, right. Sib,
right.
the drummer.
Sib the drummer.
He passed away. His grandson is The Rock's kid.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that kind of a weird little tie-in?
Yeah, that is. But, it's who you know and in the circles you're in and you meet the different people and all that. I mean, you know how that works.
I know, but it's wild to think of that. That's a great bloodline.
Can I ask you a journalistic question here?
Sure.
What is your opinion, please, of the state of sports talk in the Boston market? Now, this is This is not something I planned, but I think I know how you feel about it, and I'll be happy to tell you it's deteriorated beyond deterioration.
It's less sports talk now than one big argument, between different factions at two different competing radio stations that both cover sports, or within the parameters of one station. And there's really one person that's responsible for that, and I don't like him. But
say it. Come on. I'll say it too.
Kirk Minahan?
Yeah, I think he has ruined a lot of this because it's become I can knock you and you can knock me and I'm bigger than you because I can take it. It's like I don't care anymore. I really don't.
He thinks that the morning show, and by the way, kudos to him for being able to jump into the Boston market in his first radio job and do well. But he jumped into an established radio program. Now, if you ask him, he's the only reason anyone ever listens to that radio station ever.
Right. Well, he's now the reason I don't.
That's exactly me too. I don't ever listen to him. And sometimes people call me, "Oh, he was crapping on you again today," on the radio. Whatever. But he's really developed this almost psychotic self-importance attitude at that radio station. And I got all of my friends work there, and when he downgrades them in any way, shape, or form, and I worked with these guys for 20 years. I know them. I know that they're good broadcasters and good people, something that he's not. Now, does he have listeners? Yeah. And a lot of that is it's almost like the Billy Martin effect in baseball. You get this sudden weirdness and everybody pays attention for a while, but after a while, there's a burnout factor. The problem with him is Kirk will really not be happy until everybody in the world is talking about Kirk Minahan and only Kirk Minahan.
I used to call this TV-itis. When you get a taste of television and radio, sometimes your ego gets fed to a degree that you cannot fit through the door, and you think you become bigger than the actual entity. You are still just a talking head, if you will, on the radio, on TV. It's a job.
And nobody wants to listen to the Truman Show with an unlikable Truman. You know what I mean? That's my opinion of that show, and I don't care because he rags on me all the time. I'll say whatever I want about the guy. But you're right about that. That's the key to this thing with Kirk is, and I'll say this, and I won't say any more about the guy because I really don't like. It makes me sick talking about him.
Okay.
Nobody in the history of broadcasting is as good as he thinks he is.
Fair enough. I think, and it's funny, I think you could probably make the case for Howard Stern, one of the kings of the shock jocks.
Right.
Because Howard, too, was bigger than life.
Right.
And then went off and did his own thing.
That's the original
Correct.
version of that.
Of the shock jock. We call it's a shock jock.
Yeah. He does a big copycat. I think Stern was his idol or something. I don't know.
I don't care, to be honest with you. But anyway, getting back to reminiscing, because that's always fun for us.
Yes.
Okay. Who's one of your? We've already talked about Bill Pito as one of our favorite characters.
Yep.
I know there's another one. Who else in the Neckin world, in the Neckin history, was a favorite character of yours? Perhaps mine too.
Oh my God, the place was loaded with them. From the Tom Ellis.
God, okay. I love Tom Ellis.
Tom Ellis.
Yep.
Is the quintessential TV news anchor.
Correct.
And he
was.
That's not an act.
No.
That's who he is.
Right.
He's a former, TCU Horned Frog
football
player.
Was it TCU or just Texas? Because I know he's from Texas.
I thought it was TCU.
I'll believe you.
But he was a manly man. When he shook your hand, it stayed shook because he was strong as an ox. And he had that voice, well, Mike, what's going on in the world of sports? And you felt like, I've been challenged now by a real man here.
That's right.
I better do a good job. Tom Ellis was wonderful.
Yep.
We talk about Pito. Heather Kahn, who she and I had that videotape.
I don't think we want to know what you and Heather had.
We videotaped this thing.
You videotaped
She got
it?
in trouble. She got in trouble. But wait till you hear what it was. Remember when Jim Everett had that problem with
what's his name? Jim Rome.
Jim Rome.
Right. He called him Chris.
And then he called him Chris Everett.
Right. And then he attacked him over the table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we did a fake version of that where I called Heather Kahn Shaka Khan. And she got up and flipped the table over on top of me.
Oh, that's
it was
funny.
hysterical
It's
because
hysterical.
you know how sweet she was.
Yes.
It's funny. Well, Charlie Kravitz, the boss at NECN, calls
and now
us
the
in.
general manager of WBUR, so let's be careful.
That's right. No, I love Charlie.
We all do
He
love
calls
Charlie.
us in. He goes, Heather, you're an anchor.
That's right.
You
Let's
can't
talk
be
about
doing
respect and
fake
credibility.
Shaka Khan bits
Right.
with Mikey.
Right.
But there was a whole staff full of people. We all went through the same exact growing pains, so we all knew what that place was all about. We all got along pretty good, I think. You were
a family.
You were a weird character, and
Thanks.
Your first live shot with the. Or not your first live shot, but your one. I think it was from the finish line of the Boston Marathon when you didn't have your IFB plugged in.
Yes.
And they went to a 2-box, and you saw the anchor saying, "Now let's go to Jimmy Young live," and you were bent over. You didn't have your IFB in, so you couldn't hear him.
Right.
You were bent over.
Well,
all you could see was the top of your butt crack coming out of the equipment box, and you're trying to get the wires, and you're yelling back at the anchor, "Hold on." It was classic.
I just remember the jury rigging the microphone onto a phone.
Yeah.
And that's how we got our sound back. That was one of the first few years. That was the longest day because I worked till midnight the night before.
Yeah.
I remember this now. Worked till midnight the night before because I had 90 minutes of sports on Sunday nights. Right? Did the wrap up. They got home around 2 a.m.
Yeah.
It was in Hopkinton at 6 a.m. doing the first live shot. Hopped in my car after the race started at noon.
Yeah.
Went back
to the finish line.
Got to the finish line right as the first wheelchair people were finishing.
Right.
Okay. And then managed to stay until about 4 o'clock, 5
Until
o'clock.
that famous live shot with the plumber's crack.
I thought the famous live show was when you and I were live, and I was covering spring training after the strike, and I was in Fort Myers, and we're doing a live shot poolside, and you challenged me for $5 to
jump in the water.
For $5, you said, "I'll give you $5. You jump in the water," and I put my mic down and I jumped in the water.
You were going to do it anyway.
And then you told me I swam like your dad.
Right.
Even then, I was an old man.
Right. Yeah. Head out of the water, breaststroke.
That's right. Well, that's it. Because I didn't want to mess up my hair.
Yeah, right.
Because I was a
hair.
TV guy.
Yeah.
And by the way, we both have it. I just want, for the record.
What's that?
We still have our hair. We do. We still have our hair. And how many people our
Dr.
age?
Leonard, thank you very much. Call 1-800-GET-HAIR, all right?
Wherever you can get it, okay? All right. That was great. We're talking to Mike Adams here on Behind the Media, and this show has gone completely to hell because I had this whole format.
Oh, you had a format?
I did add a little format. But, Mike, when was the last time you worked off a format on TV?
When's the last time I worked?
Well, we're going to try and change that,
Oh, well.
I wonder if our CLNS media people out there would start a Twitter campaign to get you on the air in some capacity.
I'll tell you what I want to really do is go back to what my career was prior to my TV and radio career.
What's that?
I want to go back to my old career before TV and radio.
What was that?
I was an underwear model for JCPenney. Yeah.
Oh, I used to pin those up on my wall.
Of me?
Pretty
The ones of
straight.
me?
That's right.
Oh.
Because you took a picture of me. I'll never forget. You took a picture of me. In fact, it's still in my office.
Yeah.
Me and Hank Aaron,
Yes.
1986 World Series.
Yep, on the field
at
at
Fenway
Park in 1986. And
Still in my office.
He was wearing a gold jacket.
Yeah, no, he's wearing the MasterCard jacket, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Or there was Arby's. I think it was Arby's.
Arby's gold jacket.
Because they have the meats.
They have the meat. We got the Hank.
Speaking of meats, if you don't want to have meats and you still want protein, guess what? You can have an RX bar. That's right. RX bar is one of our sponsors here
Where's
on
mine?
Behind the Media. We have yet to see an RX bar in this studio, but we've been talking about it for a
They go direct from the
Go
distributor.
to Whole Foods and pick up your own RX bar, will you please? And of course, do the /CLNS Media. Use the promo code CLNS for 25% off your first purchase. You know what? That's the way it goes. Mikey, we do also have a few other things in common, and you and I have actually talked about this a lot off the air. I think you'll be comfortable talking about it. As you know, have you heard that cannabis is now legal in the state of Massachusetts? Look at that. I got so excited.
Someone called me and mentioned that. The thing is that, if you're a medicinal marijuana user.
I am. Anybody who looks at my hands knows I've got arthritis, and I'm in pain as we speak. Osteo.
That's what I meant.
Osteo.
I get my big words
It's
confused.
hereditary, and it's uncomfortable. In fact,
sorry to hear that.
sitting here in pain as we speak. Because
So you need a joint for your joints.
I need the CBD component of the marijuana flower, if you will, the anti-inflammatory.
You don't like the psychedelia?
Let's just say, Mike, there are times for the psychoactive component, and there are times not. How's that? Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Like in my case, the time for not is when I'm asleep.
Well, it does help with sleep. And I don't know about as you get older, it gets tougher and tougher to go to sleep.
Yeah, tincture is what I use for if I ever need that. I have some pain, I'm old, back pain, things like that. But more importantly, for me, this has been more of a labor of love over the years. Now, I always knew that there was therapeutic benefit to it because it helped keep me on the rails as opposed to off the rails over the course of my lifetime. I didn't know why. Scientifically.
Yep.
When it became a medicinal and legalized thing, I went to the doctor. The first thing I do is I got 4 or 5 reasons that I should use cannabis. And again, how much you use it and for what reasons, it all varies.
Right.
But God made cannabis. It's a natural thing. It's not an opioid. If you have pain, we've talked about Bob Lobel.
Right.
He has unbelievable amount of pain from his joint, his hip
Spinal
replacements.
stenosis. Oh,
all
my God.
kinds of
Yep.
problems. And he didn't want to be addicted to opioids. Who does?
Right.
So he went, and you never thought, Bob Lobel's 74 years old. All of a sudden, he's a cannabis user, ingestibles. It saved him.
Right.
And he talks about it incessantly now because it's the best thing that ever happened to him medically.
Right.
We can talk to him about that, but he's not alone. There's a lot of people that fall in that category. But more importantly, the argument against cannabis all the time, well, if you get behind the wheel of a... Listen, alcohol's been legal since Prohibition ended.
Alcohol is the poison.
Well, we know it kills people in cars. We know it kills people's livers. We know that it kills people. I lost 2 of my best friends to alcoholism. They drank themselves to death.
Yep.
And they were wonderful people, but they had a problem. The great thing about cannabis is that it's not addictive. It doesn't... I think most people that I know that smoke cannabis are much better drivers after they've smoked the cannabis they're more careful. They're
Right.
if anything, a little paranoid.
You're hyper-focused. You hyper-focus on it. And
Exactly.
for those young
you don't
people...
go 70 and a 30,
Right.
With the kids in the
No,
back
you don't.
seat.
No, which you might if you had alcohol in you,
That's
by
it.
the way.
So the argument against it has long been...
It's interesting you bring that up because I think that is one of the biggest issues that they're having in law enforcement with the fact that cannabis is out in the public now. It just is. And I'm not sitting here saying go smoke an ounce of weed and get behind the wheel of a car. Everything's in moderation.
You can't.
You have to use as little as possible to get the best effect as possible, but moderation is still key with anything.
Right. I mean, you don't sit there all day and just keep smoking. It's a dosage thing.
Right.
And you don't take 5 extra aspirin when the pain is gone.
Right.
You don't do that.
Right.
So it just makes a lot of sense. What's the biggest problem with it is in this particular state is we know how the politics are in Massachusetts. It got legalized by the voters, and then the government gets involved.
Well, because the government has no clue on.
Plus, they're still trying to figure out how deep can they reach into everybody's pockets and still make out all right. And this state sucks politically when it comes to the monetary.
Right. I'll throw politicians as a whole into the big barrel because I'm just not a big fan. And I think they have a tough job like everybody does.
Yeah.
I don't think they do it very well because this is a democracy.
Right.
And the democracy legalized it, and they want to see it.
Yeah.
And now the rules and regulations are in place, but I don't know about you, but when I went out to a Celtics game recently, I smelled it on the way
in and
out, and then I'm in bumper-to-bumper traffic on the Mass Pike, okay? And there's a work crew at 11 o'clock at night, and you roll down the windows, and you get wafts of it coming from people's cars.
Yeah.
The hyper-focus element of the herb is, to me, one of its greatest benefits. And a lot of people used it when they were, I'm talking about baby boomers.
You have ADD.
Correct.
It's great for ADD.
And we didn't know we had ADD when we were kids, did we, Mike? We didn't know we were ADHD. Right. We just didn't. We just didn't know.
I know. They said you're a bad kid.
Right.
You don't pay attention.
Boys being boys.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah, can't you pay attention?
Right.
I go, well, no, because I'm straight. I got to go out and have a little hit, and then I'll come back in. I'll be hyper-focused.
But see, the things that we've known about this substance for a long, long time is that it has a lack of severe harmfulness or addictive qualities, that it has therapeutic value. All these things we've known since 1970, whatever.
Yep.
Finally are coming, into the world's focus.
Yep.
And that's because generations of people. Look, Paul McCartney got busted for weed 3 times.
Yeah.
He's 75 years old.
Right.
We talked about Bob Lobel.
Right.
You talk about these people, Willie Nelson. I mean, these
Duron
people
Harmon. By the way, 2 ounces, a little too much to be going into another country.
Right.
I'm just saying.
And nobody wants the youth of America to, get involved in something they don't need to get involved in, but it's medicinal, and people have to understand that, and the government has to get their what together.
Yeah, well, you know what? You mentioned the kids and the youth, and I do want to talk about that because one of the problems I see with our young people and their use of alcohol. We used to drink alcohol because the adults drank alcohol, right? Now they're drinking alcohol with one purpose only, to get drunk.
Yeah.
That was not what we tried it because the adults were trying it. And they do too much of it, in my opinion, because they're drinking in binges and they're getting in trouble when they drink too much. And their brains have not developed enough to handle it. That's
Mine's
why.
still developing.
I'm going the other way, Mike, at this point.
I'm good. I got special injections.
Hey, so anyway, we all know that. We all know that we're up against the clock too, Mike. I want to.
I'm literally up against the clock over here. Couldn't you put it on the wall instead of
the clock's right there. It is on the wall. Yeah. Sorry about that. All right. Hey, we're going to wrap this thing up. This totally got out of control when Mike came in the studio.
That's my fault.
It's totally Mike Adams' fault, but gosh, we had a lot of fun. We said some very interesting things that I will not be surprised if they get tweeted out into the universe. And you know what that means? Well, people will actually notice that we're together, which I think has tremendous potential.
I've known you since 86.
86 World Series.
Long time, man, and you don't look really that much older.
I appreciate that, actually. I've looked at myself as a younger person, and I look like a younger person.
Yeah, well, you look like the kind of guy you go out to a restaurant, they make you pay up front.
That's You know too much about me. All right, anyway, for Alex Barth, Nick Gelso, who did stand in for Dan Lothian earlier today, for Mike Adams, thank you so much for coming in. I really do want to make this a regular thing. I think the two of us talking about one of our favorite subjects would be dynamic.
Let me work on getting regular first.
Okay, regular it is. Steve Helmuth, you directed it, and I do appreciate that. For Dan Lothian and everybody here at Little Park Media, I'm Jimmy Young. See you next time on Behind the Media. Ben's here, and I gotta